Let's back this up just a little bit. I want to catch what he's saying real quick.
Here's still around 4.
Hang on. Boom, 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 boom. Right there. Oh.
Notification system. The notifications will be for what's happening within city limits, not within the county. Todd.
Kevin, thanks. We've got a link to sign up on our website, WPSDLocal6.com.
Now, your Weather Authority first forecast.
All right, it really is a beautiful evening out there for the first Monday of October. We've got a lovely sunset in the top right there on your TV. That's from the TV tower here in Paducah. Sunshine elsewhere across the Local 6 area. Temperatures in the mid to high 80s right now. Way above average for the time of year. Temperatures tonight will stay in the upper 60s. Mid to high 60s in Tennessee, lower 60s Kentucky, upper 50s across southern Illinois, 59 Metropolis, 60 Cape Girardeau, and 62 tonight in Sikeston. Tomorrow, lots of sun in the morning, a few cirrus clouds, maybe a cumulus cloud in the afternoon. Highs again, upper 80s. I think we'll get probably closer to 90. Those temperatures there are just between the hours. I think maybe we'll hit about 90 or so around 4 o'clock tomorrow. No chance of any rain for your Tuesday. Talk much more about the extended forecast coming up.
An ongoing issue for those who rely on rivers for a living. The Mississippi and Ohio rivers are still low.
And as Local 6's Callie Stone explains, many who rely on our waterways for a living are being impacted.
Because of low water levels, boat ramps like this one can't be used, and that's causing problems for people who are trying to get on the water.
Like boat operator John Barnes with Barnes Marine Service, which delivers groceries to boats. As water levels go down, orders go up, and so does the gas bill.
There's a lot of ramps you can't use right now, so you just gotta run further, and it takes, like, I've only done one boat today, and it's, what, 2 o'clock?
How'd this happen? An extremely hot summer, lack of rain, and even last year's drought. The U.S. Corps of Engineers says other water sources are being used to help with the problem.
And a little over 20% of the water that's flowing through the Mississippi and Memphis is coming from Kentucky and Berkeley. So, you know, despite a lack of rain, we have so much water in storage that we're able to continue keeping the river system moving.
Chief Meteorologist Trent Okerson says the past few years' dry spells have been worse than normal.
How much precipitation they get farther north going into the winter is going to play a big role in how far or how quickly river levels here will start to bounce back.
And if conditions do continue, Barnes says the company is looking at their options.
You might be able to rent some ground and, you know, put a portable building there, refrigerator, haul groceries down there and keep it further that way so you can keep a boat in the water down there.
It looks like water levels are not going to get any better anytime soon, and that leaves sands like that uncovered. In Carlisle County, Callie Stone, WPSD Local 6.
And our weather team says the water may stay low throughout the winter and possibly into early 2024. What comes next for a local senior citizen center? The Marshall County Senior Citizen Center is closed and reopened several times now.
That's right, but tonight, Marshall County leaders are asking the public to weigh in.
While they're talking, I want to say something about the water table and the river. People by and large around here still does not have a lot of respect for me because they have been brainwashed or taught that something was wrong with me. And now, since I'm bringing out the truth about my life, I'm sure there's probably a few of them that feel kind of guilty because they just sit idly by and let things occur or happen that by and large most sensible, decent people would never have let it slide like that. But you know, that's in the past. But what I'm seeing presently and in the future in a group of people that, you know, I still don't get invited to their homecomings. I don't have nobody come and ask me if I need anything pertaining to a neighborhood watch. I could go on and on about how dysfunctional or how cold and callous that a great deal of these people have become, even though I have nailed it again and again and again regarding contradictory statements that goes up against peace. When you tell people that it's going to be a bloody road ahead, that is contradicting a piece. When you tell people that there's going to be massive electrical disturbances and they think that you're going to create electrical disturbance, obviously there's something wrong with these people. Whenever you tell these people that the Mississippi River is going to start running dry, along with all the other continents of their water supply starting to get dry, how come they're not intelligent enough to put into the equation that the Mother Earth is warming up from the inside out, and the reason why a lot of this stuff is occurring is because of evaporation? I told them last year that the Mississippi River was going to get low again this year. And you know what? It's a strong, strong likelihood. A matter of fact, it's more probable than it is possible that it would do the same thing again and again and again. Whenever you have a planet that is wreaking what we are doing to it right now, and people are not intelligent enough to figure it out, and then whenever somebody like me comes along, and because I haven't been associated with a particular group, or I haven't been associated with some sort of big conglomerate college somewhere, oh, he's just a problem child. He had a bad problem. He had a bad raising whenever he was a child growing up. Yeah, I did. That obviously a lot of these people that's now in their late 60s and 70s didn't care nothing about at the time whenever they was seeing destruction fall upon my family pertaining to my mother, my older brother, my second oldest brother, and my younger brother. They want to look, this is how insensitive and how full of hypocrisy that they are. They want to look at somebody like me whenever I make a statement about something, and they go, well, look at the source. Look at the source. Okay, let's look at the source. I am who I am. I am what I am. I don't try to be nothing that I'm not. I'm a sinner saved by grace, just like everybody else. Now, these same people that have claimed that they had the answers to all the questions, and that they was professional people, and that they was advising us in the right way, these are the same people that has led us down this doom and gloom road of, yes, a bloody road ahead, major electrical disturbances, and now the Mississippi River running low, or basically almost running dry from year to year. In other words, we got a pattern here. But do I still get any type of, I guess the right word would be respect? No, absolutely not. We can't violate our principles. We done already made up our mind that we was going to ruin this individual. A matter of fact, I'm really surprised that he's still living. I'm really surprised that he's got a right mind to be able to make all these videos and put out there to the general public. This is what I got to say. Whenever these newscasters put out information that goes out on public domain, these people that's in ownership with these people, and I'm not saying necessarily Channel 6, but it don't matter who they are, they think that we aren't intelligent enough to make copies or to document them in them saying what that they have said, even though they go in and they'll modify their records, and sometimes they'll even delete those records, even though once they put that information out, it no longer belongs to them. It belongs to us. It's now considered public domain, and they are not supposed to tamper around with public domain information, but they do, and it's really sad because it's a scenario towards do as I say and not as I do, and we have seen that now for the past 30 plus years of various politicians that, as far as I'm concerned, the devil himself is still not being held accountable, and the people that followed the devil and the people that was deceived by the devil for the past 30 plus years has still not given account towards where we are. And whenever you have a society that does not hold people accountable, you're going to have a deformed, you're going to have a retarded, you're going to have a perverted, you're going to have a broken system. Now you can try to dissect that, analyze that any way you want, but the bottom line is this: the American people are not getting their bang for the buck. Period. It doesn't matter if what we just got through seeing, which was a three-ring circus up in White House again, pertaining to them debating over the national debt pertaining to the crisis that we're in. And of course, basically all they done was pass a 45-day extension. The American people is going to have to go through all this emotional stress and turbulence again in the next 45 days, which would be just basically right in the beginning phases of the holiday season, basically right before Thanksgiving. Wow, talk about your turkey not going down good. Right? They're playing with us. They are toiling with us. And the American people either don't have enough capabilities about them to understand this, or they don't care. I don't know which it is, either or. But people like myself that stand up and oppose them in what they've been doing and what they still are doing, we're looked down upon. We're looked upon as being the bad guy. We're looked upon as actually being the monster. That tells you something about society whenever society becomes that out of proportion with reality.
Veteran is celebrating his 107th birthday today. Oakley Hatcher served as an armed guard in the Navy, provided gun support during D-Day. That's when more than 150,000 Allied troops landed in Normandy, France, the largest seaborne invasion in history. Hacker says that even though war is a horrible experience, no matter whose side you're on, I felt I had a duty to defend this country and my family. I'd do it all over again. To commemorate Hacker's service, Senate President Robert Stivers delivered a special Senate resolution in Hazard this morning, while Hacker was surrounded by friends and family. Next tonight, book bans on the rise nationwide.
Well, local libraries are doing to push back against it after the break.
But yet now Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all those other social media platforms are just running wild. In other words, they can put whatever that they want to put on there, and people ain't supposed to take none of that stuff serious. Wow. Do as I say, not as I do, right? Wow. Let's go forward a little more here. We already know about book bans.
That's according to new data from the state.
And this week kicks off Domestic Violence Awareness Month, a time to remember its prevalence in our community. Local agencies are here to help. The Merriman House assigns an advocate to every survivor to make sure you get the help you need. They also have free mental health services, legal advice, and a whole stabilization department for getting back on your feet after leaving a violent relationship. And their services are for more than just survivors of physical abuse.
What I want to share with survivors is that
and whenever our politicians fails us and all our jobs go south and people has to resort towards straining situations or even starving situations, people's emotions get raw, and usually it is a combination of a perfect storm for more and more violence. Have you ever noticed whenever things are going incredibly good with our nation, the taverns and the beer joints, the honky tonks is what we used to call them years ago, the joints is what we called them years ago, they're not near as full. But you let you let times get hard, you let people start losing their jobs, you let people not having no hope, you watch them taverns and them saloons and them nightclubs and them honky tonks get full. Get full. Because the devil's people are saying, oh, come on in here, get you some suds, drown all your problems away, just forget about it, sweep it under the rug, out of sight, out of mind. Wow.
Today, the first Monday of the new month, October, but it's not feeling like October. We're still feeling the hot weather, and we're going to again for Tuesday. Some showers come in Thursday, and that's really the line in the sand, if you will. You'll notice after it that, yeah, Mama Nature's going to say fall is here, and it's going to be here to stay after Thursday. And trust me when I tell you, the fall vibes will be very high for Saturday and Sunday this weekend. Some low 90s today, southeast Missouri, 90 Sikeston, 91 Poplar Bluff, 88 today Paducah, 78 is the average high for the 2nd of October. That's a common theme so far this year. Just to remind you, I like to keep this perspective, especially as we head into fall or anytime we transition out of seasons. Right now, we're still sitting as one of the warmest years on record. So if you're sitting here wondering, okay, what's the rest of the fall outlook and early winter? Well, generally, the two things to look at is how warm have we been? Well, very. And how wet have we been? Also vary. You know, there was so much rain this summer. An easy way to dictate the fall and even winter outlook is how much water's in the ground. If I was showing you this and
we got rain here from basically St. Louis down towards about halfway in Mississippi. I don't even know how it done over in Arkansas. I know St. Louis got flooded, but they're in the beginning phases of January, February, and the first part of March. It was drier than a bone. And the Mississippi River had already dropped to the point that they was having to stop the ferry in Hickman, Kentucky. And then we went from being the driest 2 or 3 months on record to being the wettest on record. But it didn't do the same up north from here, up in places like Ohio, Virginia, places like that, and over towards Idaho and up towards Minnesota and stuff like that. So because the ground is so dry, I took notice of this back about 3 or 4 years ago since I moved back here. It seemed like every year it takes the grass a little bit longer to actually die out. And whenever I say die out, I'm talking about grass ordinarily in this part of the area gets completely brown because it's done already had a major freeze or two on it, a time or two, and it basically tells Mother Nature, hey, it's time for all your life to go back into the roots. Well, every year I've noticed it's staying greener a little longer. And whenever I really took notice of the weather changing significantly was the year that I was working in Hopkinsville, Kentucky for Malcolm Preachett. And I remember on my 12 o'clock lunch break, rather than me go somewhere and sit down and eat, there was a large cemetery and a creek in behind the cemetery. And I would go out there and eat a sandwich or whatever and listen to the radio. And it was hotter than blooming blazes. It seems like it was in, what year was that? I think it was in 2009. I think it was in 2009. It may have been 2007 whenever I was working for Malcolm. I'd have to look at it on paper. It was the same year that they basically shut down the dam up around Grand Rivers, Kentucky, over me telling them that God had showed me that there was going to be electrical disturbances. Anyways, I'd go out there and I'd feel the heat, look at the situation, and I literally watched this creek go from being moderately with a flow of water to the point of just down to a trickle, and then finally it just dried completely up to where it wasn't nothing but just basically mud holes. So I've been paying close attention to the weather now since really 205, whenever I stood back up for the Lord and I went back up into LBL, and basically all hell busted loose in my life because of me standing up for Christ. But I've been noticing it more and more and more get more and more extreme. And I've heard this from other people on news channels, weather channels too as well.
Yes, and we were at the 7th driest year to date on record. We'd have a ton of cool nights because the ground could heat and cool a lot faster and a lot more when there's a lot less water in it. Well, there's a lot of water in the ground from the wet summer going into this fall. So that'll be something interesting to keep in the back of our head as we get into October and November. Just under 50 inches of rain officially in Paducah. That's about 10 inches of rain above average through this point in the year. No rain tonight, live ultimate.
Why are we 10 inches of average more than what we should be this time of year? Because of deluges. Hickman got flooded. Union City got flooded. Major flooding in these areas that happened. I think even parts of St. Louis got flooded. Whenever you have an excess of 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 inches of rain fall out of the sky in just a matter of a few hours, it's going to raise your water markings. But the thing about it is, whenever you have those flash rains, 90% of it drains off, and it really don't have an opportunity to soak into the ground like it should.
Things are quiet. The heat is aplenty, though, from coast to coast.
Now, see what I was talking about? Right there in the center, and down towards Mexico, all the way down through Florida. Phoenix, Raleigh, DC, Buffalo, Minnesota, Rapid City, Green Bay, Chicago, Memphis, Dallas, and San Antonio. Look at the readings. It's one like a heat dome right there. How do they explain that? Oh, they talk about the jet stream. Oh, they talk about upper elements of the weather that's overhead. And they don't put into the equation towards what is happening below our feet.
Close to 90 today, San Antonio, almost 90 in Minneapolis, but 58 today in Salt Lake. Some of that air is going to be coming here for the weekend. Tomorrow it's still really warm. Again, atypical for October. Not quite record setting. The records were actually in the mid 90s back from 2019. You might remember we had insane heat to start off October. We were in the upper 90s a couple years ago. Not quite that high tomorrow. Here's 3 o'clock, somewhere near 90, mostly sunny. Now Wednesday should still be dry through a good part of the day. Here's 10 in the morning Wednesday, 70s, mid 80s. Here's Wednesday afternoon, a blended clouds and sun. But the showers really hold off until probably later Thursday. Here's Thursday morning, 11 a.m. Thursday. Notice the winds have increased out of the southwest. Showers start in Missouri about 11 a.m. Thursday, and they'll work their way east across the area Thursday afternoon. Here's the big picture setup. Low pressure up in Hudson Bay, Canada. Multiple 1,000-mile long front coming off of that. That's what gives us the showers Thursday midday and afternoon. Then a secondary reinforcing shot of cooler air comes in late Thursday night into Friday morning, and this is the front where the wind really increases behind it. And then the sky clears out heading into Friday night and Saturday, and between low pressure that really winds up over eastern Canada and high pressure over the central plains, we're going to have quite a gusty northwest wind. This is Saturday at 1 o'clock with mostly sunny skies. So if you have an event outside, maybe a fall wedding or anything going on Saturday, that wind will be an impact to you. I want to make you aware of that. So it's hot tomorrow, 90. Morning, sun Wednesday, afternoon clouds, 88. Some showers Thursday, mainly the second half of the day. Clearing with gusty winds Friday, 73. Still gusty winds on Saturday, sunny, 65. Check out those overnight lows, though. For the first time this season, will be near 40 Saturday night into early Sunday morning.
And while it's still hot outside right now, winter is just around the corner, and kids may not have a way to stay warm this season.
Wow. The transitions of it going from one extreme to another is just unbelievable. That's a good program that Channel 6 has towards making up money and stuff for kids, pertaining to coats and stuff. That's a real good program. I've been outside all day in the heat trying to redo my steps out here, getting ready for my operation. I don't know. I think what I have done today may be a solution to one of my problems. I got about 2 or 3 more out here that I'm going to have to deal with in regards towards planning ahead towards my operation. Man, this thing is taking forever. Well, that's the end of all that, I guess. Looks like it is. I thought I had went back early enough to get the first 5:30 report before the national news, but apparently I caught it after the national news, and I didn't catch what I really wanted to catch in that sequence of events. Now we're on national news here. Let's see what they got to say real quick.
Authorized a strike, while 75,000 Kaiser employees could picket Wednesday for a 3-day stoppage that could become the largest healthcare strike in U.S. history. By one estimate, more than 360,000 workers have walked off the job already this year.
There is a domino effect when workers stand in solidarity with one another. It encourages other workers in other industries.
Tonight, as some return to work, others are digging in. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
And up next, record numbers of migrants and the difficult ripple effects. We go inside the country's oldest hospital, now overwhelmed. We're back now with the record number of migrants crossing into the U.S., pushing resources to the limit in many American cities. Now hospitals are sounding the alarm, saying they're also overwhelmed, including some far from the border. Julia Ainsley has our report.
Tonight, the border crisis surging. Officials telling NBC News there were over 200,000 illegal crossings at the southern border last month, and a record 3 million migrants crossed the border in the last year. Now, a new warning 1,000 miles away in New York City, where officials tell us resources are overwhelmed. Across public hospitals in New York City, a quarter of the patients are now migrants. Over the last year, nearly 30,000 visits by migrants and 300 new babies born to migrant moms. Staff here at Bellevue Hospital tell us they're eager to help, but the numbers are tough.
This has been the hardest work that I've ever done, but it's been the most impactful work that I've ever done.
And most of the visits to the taxpayer-funded legal clinic here are by migrants.
Our clinics are full, and there are waiting lists, and people are turning people away or referring them to other places.
Randy Redkin from New York's Legal Assistance Group says so many migrants are asking for legal help on asylum representation and healthcare access. Now, she says, American citizens who need legal assistance with issues like eviction and insurance have to wait up to 10 weeks.
If you ask me, do we need more resources for legal services? I would say absolutely yes.
Meanwhile, New York's governor now slamming the situation at the border.
It is too open right now. People coming from all over the world are finding their way through, simply saying they need asylum.
And New York Mayor Eric Adams saying providing services for migrants will cost city taxpayers $12 billion. But Biden administration officials have blamed Adams' response. It is not an operationally sound effort, one senior DHS official told NBC News. Meanwhile, migrants on the streets are desperate for city help. We met Orlando, who fled violence in Venezuela. He didn't want to appear on camera, telling us he slept on the street before coming to Bellevue for cancer treatment.
How is that for you
given your medical condition, to be sleeping on the street. You have to make believe it's a good bed, a king size, and you lie down wherever and go to sleep, he says. Orlando tells us he came to New York because he heard about the social services the city would offer to migrants like himself, who were trying to start a new life. The Biden administration recently granted temporary legal status to nearly 500,000 Venezuelans, allowing them to work. Today, Governor Hochul announced there are 18,000 jobs now available to eligible migrants. Lester?
Julia Ainsley, thanks. Up next, we speak with the scientists who just won this year's Nobel Prize, their inspiring message to the next generation.
By treating it with
this time of year, and we're tracking some fall temperatures finally heading our way.
Yeah, that's all next at 6.
A big tribute this evening to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. A short time ago, the U.S. Postal Service officially unveiling a new stamp commemorating the late Supreme Court Justice. It features an oil painting of Ginsburg based on a picture taken in 2017, and it's available now on the Postal Service's website. And finally tonight, their discovery led to a monumental medical breakthrough, but even they were surprised when they learned today they're receiving one of the world's most prestigious awards. Here's Andrea Mitchell.
The Nobel Prize in Medicine, the last thing a pair of scientists expected when the phone rang at 3:40 this morning.
My husband picked up and he was talking to somebody, and then he just handed over and said, "This is for you."
Did you believe it at first?
Not really, because, people can make jokes.
I also thought it was a prank or an anti-vax joke or something.
Especially surprising because their work had been ignored, even ridiculed for decades. They were working in different departments at the University of Pennsylvania when they discovered each other at the copying machine.
I have to say that working together, that was the real reward.
Born in Hungary, Kariko came to the U.S. in the 1980s. We first talked to her, Andrew Weissman, 2 years ago when the COVID vaccines were becoming more available.
Talk to me about how skeptical people were about the value of RNA.
I don't know, did we listen to them? Not really,
I mean, everybody was skeptical, but we didn't care.
Together, they found a way to create a vaccine that got past the body's defenses, but still prompted the immune system to make antibodies to fight disease. Now their discovery is leading to new vaccines for AIDS and sickle cell anemia, even gene therapies to prevent some cancers. Her message to young people?
Just hang on and be resilient and have fun and enjoy.
Katie and I certainly didn't go into science for money or for awards. We did it because of interest and curiosity.
And the joy of saving millions of lives. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
That's Nightly News for this Monday. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself.
And you as well.
It charged Harvey Weinstein and tried him, and that was a terribly difficult case. Preet's done that in any number of cases. It's not you make your decision, and then it's your job to make the decision. It's the jury's job to decide what they think of your decision and what you meant, whether you made your burden of proof.
Now, Preet, you were a bit of a very informed observer of all of this here because, of course, your successor at the Southern District of New York also didn't pursue a criminal case here. Do you think, knowing what you know now, there should have been a criminal case pursued?
Well, I don't know that there was a criminal case that the feds could have brought, that the U.S. Attorney's Office could have brought with respect to these things. This matter that Tish James has brought is very specifically and concretely under New York law. There's a very broad statute that, makes it a bad thing and for which you can be held liable and penalized for false business records and doing business under false pretenses and making these kinds of misrepresentations. But there was a decision not to prosecute Donald Trump, even though Michael Cohen was prosecuted with respect to the hush money payments. And I'm going to echo what my friend Cy Vance said: once you leave an office, whether you leave voluntarily or you're ejected by the President of the United States, as I was, you leave the office. And it's very difficult to judge someone's decision not to proceed with the case. When you do proceed with a case, and I've said this many times, You can judge the evidence, you can go to the courtroom, you can see what the arguments are, you can see what the counter arguments are, and you're in a position to evaluate. When a decision is made to decline a prosecution, walk away from a prosecution, it's much harder to judge that because you haven't been in the grand jury, you don't get the grand jury minutes, you don't know what the internal arguments were, you don't know what the presentations that were made by defense counsel might have been if those things happened. So I respect the judgments of, both prosecutors that you discussed and alluded to in the state system, in the federal system, because they're both smart, I think, thoughtful, deliberate people with integrity. And maybe one day we'll find out what some of the reasons are, but that's not how our system works.
Now,
That's not how our system works.
Boogie on over to Glenn.
Call.
Society is uncivilized. This is a significant event in American cultural history. I've never seen a Raiders fan lose a fight in the stands, ever. It's the first time. So we had to take note of this. It's not just fights, it's riots, it's random attacks. We used to have facilities designed to take care of the mentally ill. It kept them safe, and it kept us safe. In the 50s, America's psychiatric facilities housed nearly 600,000 patients. Today, the number's down to just 45,000. So what happened to the mentally ill? Did hundreds of thousands of them magically get cured overnight? No. JFK and Big Pharma got these patients released, and then they numbed them with medication. It made people money, but it didn't make us safer. One study found that within 6 months of being discharged, 30% of patients were either homeless or had no known address. And thanks to the ACLU, the courts helped give these individuals the liberty to be homeless, dangerous, and deranged. And decades later, the country has not found a solution. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy joins me now. Are you, as president, Vivek, going to bring back mental institutions?
It was Ronald Reagan in the early 80s that dumped a lot of people out on the streets because they seen that it was an area that they could have saved money on, that they was financing all these mental institutions. Now our country is crawling with them. People with bad problems. Maybe they was born with those problems. Maybe they was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and maybe it was a dare thing or something. I don't know, but you got probably as much or more mental illness in this country today than what it ever has had. Why is that? You got to go to the source. Demonic. The Bible says that if the blind lead the blind, they both shall leadeth off into the ditch. I've said this in other programs, I'll say it in this one. We are in the ditch. We are no longer heading towards the ditch. We are in the ditch. Now, who put us there? Why are we there? I don't know why that guy hit that guy, but the first thing I thought of, Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer. Whenever Jerry Springer show come on up in Chicago that my niece was working for at the time, I knew then that our society was becoming a very, very cold, callous, basically a raw rank society whenever people can laugh and make fun of other people's calamities in their life and not have no type of remorse or no type of feelings of compassion towards that person and turn it into a game show. I knew then that it was getting bad. And of course, whenever Donald Trump was basically running for his first presidency, I have made mention many times before that it reminded me of a Jerry Springer towards wanting to hump up the people. rev up the people. That's why they call people like that a rebel riser. You get two people together, they're not trying to be peacemakers. They're trying to get those two people to have blows with one another. And it's really sad of what our society's turned into. Really sad.
I think that this is a clear path to fighting the violent crime wave across this country, Jesse. I've said it at the debates. I'm the only candidate in either party talking about it because it's a taboo subject, but we have to talk about the hard truth. Violent crime has risen over precisely the period that we have shuttered these psychiatric institutions.
You're right.
And you know what? The number one psychiatric institution today is jail.
You're
It's
right.
prison.
Yep.
And they don't do a very good job. And now you can then get the calls to clear the jails or to have commuting of sentences or shortening of sentences. People leave those jails in a worse psychiatric condition often than when they even enter,
Yep.
even worsening
You're
that
right,
problem.
and then
Yep.
they push
So
you
wanna
into a
fight the crime
subway
epidemic,
train.
we know how to do it.
I agree. Why
Yes.
do you think it's taboo to talk about institutionalizing people that are dangerous to themselves and others?
Well, the reality is there were some abuses, limited cases of abuses in decades past. We can do this again, learning from those past mistakes without those abuses. I don't think I want to be pumping psychiatric institutions with pharmaceuticals into people. Faith-based approaches, there are better ways to do this. But that being said, and you put your finger on this a little bit, Jesse, is look at who benefited from that policy. It was none other than large pharmaceutical companies that had developed antipsychotics and other forms of antidepressants as well.
Are
for
antipsychotics
psychiatrically ill
working,
people.
Vivek? Because it doesn't seem to me like they're working. Maybe they numb you for a little bit, and then they get off of them, and then they slit someone's throat on the street.
Look, the bad thing about them is they do so much irreversible damage to the liver, to the heart, and other organs, including the mind, that these hypnosis type drugs that basically are out of the pits of hell as far as I'm concerned, because society is using psychiatric doctors are using that as a prop to be able to cover the problems with other people that should be prayed for and dealt with appropriately, but our churches has failed in that sense, and now we're seeing more and more people like this.
The mental health epidemic in this country, Jesse, it is spreading like wildfire. It results in violent crime. About a quarter of fatal police shootings involve somebody who is mentally ill. There are more mentally ill people in prison than there are in institutions today.
Whenever in 2006, after I had stayed down in Mississippi almost all spring and summer, it was later in the fall whenever I decided to go on my spree and going and walking down the C&O Canal, pulling up a wagon about 60 miles, something like that. I remember coming into Washington, D.C., beside the Potomac River, and I had to stay there in Georgetown, and I was basically a homeless person at that point in time because my automobile was down the road after I'd left it. I think it was in Hillman's White Ferry or something like that. Yeah, White Ferry was where I left it at. I remember I was sleeping on the ground because it was still summertime. Hadn't turned off bad yet, and this homeless guy comes running up to me that's got a pipe in his hand. I know the pipes had to have been at least 3 foot, and there would have been no way feasibly possible that I could have stopped this individual from doing damage to me. He got within arm's distance of me with both of his hands on the pipe, with the pipe already swung in behind his shoulders that was fixing to knock me for a flip. And all I could do was start saying, Jesus, Jesus, help me, Jesus, help me. And the guy stopped. He looked at me kind of funny. He turned around and walked away. it was, needless to say, it was a very intense moment, but God took care of me during that time.
And so what I want to do as U.S. President, yes, I've said I want to revive our sense of national identity. But part of that is we have a hole in our hearts. We are starved for purpose and meaning. And instead of using either pharmaceutical medications or turning to violent crime to fill that hunger, we need to do the real thing in this country. And so I do think we are overdue for an honest conversation about limited circumstances for involuntary commitment. Yes, of people who are
I agree. You
psychiatrically
can't
ill
be
and
cowardice.
dangerous.
You cannot be cowards about this because people are getting hurt. The people that are mentally ill are getting hurt, and then random strangers are being hurt too. And I'm sure you're going to bring this up tomorrow. I believe you're on Brett, so everybody check Vivek on that at 6. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up next, Minnie tried to buy off Trump.
I don't have a clue what that's about. Let's see. Let's see what he says.
Now they won't tell us anything. They're dodging our questions. And I dare the president to tell the parents of these little girls that the border's secure. Minnie Madoff's trial starts tomorrow. Remember Minnie? Stole $100 million and bought the midterms for the Democrats. Minnie was so cavalier, he thought, why just rig the midterms when you can rig the general? Michael Lewis reports in his new book that Minnie tried to bribe Trump.
One of the most shocking passages in this book, I thought, came with this revelation that Sam had looked into paying Donald Trump not to run.
That only shocks you if you don't know Sam. Sam's thinking we could pay Donald Trump not to run for president. Like, how much would it take?
Did he get an answer?
So he did get an answer. He was floated. There was a number that was kicking around, and the number was kicking around when I was talking to Sam about this was $5 billion. Sam was not sure that number came directly from Trump.
Why didn't this happen? Why didn't you follow through?
Well, they were still having these conversations when FTX blew up. So why didn't it happen? He didn't have $5 billion anymore.
So while Democrats were trying to bribe Trump not to run, China was bribing Joe to run. Got it. Joe Conch is a Fox News contributor. Why don't a bunch of billionaires...
Sick.
Watching what was happening in the courtroom today, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it seemed to me like more of a political argument from Trump's team than a legal argument. What did you make of what was happening in there?
That is exactly what I thought. Donald Trump is outside. His lawyer is even inside, making all of these arguments about election interference and persecution and witch hunt and all this stuff. His lawyer is even making that inside. Those arguments would fail with a jury of 12 peers. But he doesn't even have a jury. It's just a judge. A judge could not care less about any of those arguments. And this is where the disconnect in Donald Trump's world is going to collide with reality, because he operates in a fiction-filled world based on lies and brainwashing and cults. But when he gets in a courtroom, there are different rules that apply, and he's not in charge. And he is going to have a serious comeuppance.
A bit of a different set of rules in the legal system. It seems like, you know, this trial is taking place in your district, as I mentioned, and Trump really issued some threats today against the judge, reiterated a lot of the angry, scary language we just can't become numb to. Do you have any concern about what that's going to mean in your district? Have you anything you've heard today that makes you concerned about that?
We've not heard any specific threats today, but this is an ongoing, serious problem. Donald Trump is ratcheting up his rhetoric. It's a call and response, and we saw what happened on January 6th. He knows exactly what he's doing, and even if he claims he doesn't, he has to know because of what happened on January 6th. And so when he starts insulting Attorney General James or the judge or District Attorney Fani Willis or Special Counsel Jack Smith, he is fomenting violence. And I would call right now on my Republican colleagues to denounce this rhetoric.
I don't care whether you support Donald Trump or you don't support Donald Trump. We cannot have this violent, threatening rhetoric coming from the front runner to be president, former president, that has such an impact on so many people. And it is time for House Republicans, especially those who support Donald Trump. They can do it privately, but they need to tell him to cool it.
It's a very powerful note to end on. I hope people heed your warning. Heed your ask. Congressman Dan Goldman, thank you.
Well, I guess Democrats need to determine first and foremost whether they want to align themselves with Matt Gaetz. This is somebody who they have derided for years and who has been under ethics investigation. And
I'm going to end this right here, but I do want to make a point pertaining to political stance. Instead of hearing people come up with solutions to our problems, all we hear is more and more rhetoric that if people are like me, they're sick of this because it is a negative stance and it is a destructionable stance. In other words, we don't have people in there that's got visions. We don't have people in there with solutions to the problems. I do want to show my viewers what that I had accomplished today. Maybe my light will come on where I can see. See that? There's my steps. I did have metal steps that come on the trailer, and I have been taking liquid wrench penetrating oil and spraying the joints of the steps down again and again and again because I knew that they had rusted up. I actually had to get a handyman jack and another scissor jack to put pressure on both sides at the same time just to be able to raise that up and put it back in the hole where it originally come from. But while I was over there, or in here, I cleaned it all up. I went ahead and dug a hole right there, and that's where I'm going to put my post, and I'm going to mount a motor on the on the post to where if something incredibly goes wrong, which hopefully it won't, all I got to do is take a quick pin and hook it up to the point that I basically have a wheelchair lift that I can remove the top section of that and remove these 4 blocks right here, which won't take but just a minute, and then I can put my lift there in case I'm going to need my lift. So I'm trying to properly prepare, naturally hoping for the best, but at the same time always expecting the worst, especially once you get my age and you've been poisoned by the state of Kentucky and putting you on Risperdal whenever I didn't need to be on Risperdal. I was making money in Oklahoma, paying federal and state taxes. But this is what happens to a society that's fallen apart. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do nothing. They're incoherent in a way towards not being able to be effective for we the people. And we the people deserve more than this. We the people should make demands on the fact that we're being shortchanged every day. Every time you turn on the news or you hear politicians talking about this or that, and basically all they're doing is demonizing one another, being very rude about it in a lot of different instances. Like I said a while ago, it reminds me of the Jerry Springer show that I guess was a hit for like 20 years, 15 or 20 years. Whenever Donald Trump started running for president, it was like he was, hyping people up. Hype, 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 hype. Okay. Well, you can hype anything up. You can hype two cats to want to fight together. You can hype two dogs up together to the point that they're wanting to kill one another. If you hype them up in the right way. Being a rebel-riser is not the solution to the American people's problems. It's going back to the altar. It's going back to the cross. It's getting our lives right with the Lord Jesus Christ. Thanks again. Good luck to all of us. God bless. God bless America. God bless our troops. And heaven help us all. Shalom.